You open your eyes, but there is no peace in waking. The air is sharp, metallic, heavy with the sting of ash and the bitter taste of smoke that clings to the back of your throat. The cold is not just around you, it is inside you, gnawing at your bones, stiffening your joints until even breathing feels like defiance. Your stomach twists with the hollow ache of hunger, a pain so deep it blurs the edges of thought. You press your palm to the ground, and it offers no comfort, only frostbitten earth, damp and unyielding, as if the world itself wants to remind you that it does not care whether you rise or whether you stay. Somewhere in the distance, carried by the wind, comes a sound you know too well, a low rumble, guttural and patient. It is not thunder. It is alive. A predator's growl, waiting, watching, circling just beyond the reach of your fading fire. You cannot see its eyes, but you feel them on your skin, measuring, calculating, daring you to falter. Above you, the sky is a void, thick with blackened clouds that swallow the stars. No warmth comes from above, no shelter surrounds you. Every breath is a gamble, every step a negotiation with death itself. In this world, there are no tomorrows promised, only a series of fragile moments strung together by desperation. You are not living. You are resisting. Existence itself is an act of violence here, against the hunger clawing inside you, against the cold sinking into your marrow, against the teeth and claws that wait for your final mistake. Life does not ask you to thrive. It demands only this: do not die. And yet, this is the world that shaped you. This is the crucible that forged the blood in your veins. Survival here is not heroic, it is brutal, merciless, unrelenting. And still, you endure. If you're sitting in comfort right now and still refuse to subscribe to Tale of History, then maybe you're not strong enough to handle what comes next. Prove you're tougher than that. Subscribe now. The ground beneath your feet is not steady earth. It shifts, cracks, and betrays you. One season it drowns you in endless floods, the next it burns you under a merciless sun, and before long it buries you in ice so thick even breath itself feels frozen in your chest. The world is not your home, it is your executioner, and it waits with infinite patience to decide when you will fall. The ice ages arrive like a thief in the night. Temperatures plummet without warning, rivers harden into stone, and the plains that once fed your tribe turn into lifeless tundra. You watch animals collapse in the snow, their ribcages sharp beneath thinning skin, their bodies soon covered by the very ice that starved them. And yet you have no choice but to follow them, chasing the faint hope of meat across endless white. Your footprints vanish as quickly as you make them, swallowed by storms that erase every trace of your struggle. Then the ice recedes, but mercy does not come. The land splits and burns, volcanoes tearing open the earth with fire that rains from the sky. Ash blots out the sun, turning day into a permanent dusk. You breathe in the soot until your lungs ache, every cough tasting of smoke and grit. Crops cannot grow in poisoned soil. Rivers choke with mud. The air itself seems to whisper, "You do not belong here." And when the fire finally sleeps, water rises to take its place. The plains flood without warning, whole valleys drowning in a single season. The land that once carried your people disappears beneath dark water, and you are forced again to walk, to move, to abandon everything you thought you could hold. You march toward deserts that crack your lips, blister your feet, and strip the skin from your body beneath a sun that shows no mercy. The world is relentless, and you are its fugitive. You do not settle, you do not rest. You follow shifting herds, you chase migrating beasts, you wander across continents with no map but hunger and no guide but desperation. Fossils buried deep in the earth tell the story of this movement, bones of your kind scattered in places thousands of miles apart, proof that survival was bought with endless footsteps and countless dead left behind on the trail. You are not the master of this world. You are a shadow slipping through its cracks, clinging to its edges, moving only because to stop is to die. And yet, even in your weakness, you endure. Because you must. Because no one will save you. If you can sit in safety now, with warmth at your fingertips and food within reach, and still refuse to subscribe to Tale of History, then you have learned nothing of their suffering. Prove that you honor their journey, subscribe, or explain in the comments why you would rather remain blind to the footsteps that brought you here. Hunger does not whisper. It screams. It claws at the hollow of your stomach until the ache becomes sharper than the cold, heavier than fear itself. You feel it twisting inside you, bending your back, dimming your eyes, stealing the strength from your bones. Hunger is the executioner that waits patiently for your weakness, and in this world, it comes for everyone. The hunt is no act of triumph, it is desperation. You gather with your kin, gripping weapons carved from stone, brittle spears that splinter more easily than they strike. Before you stand creatures that dwarf you in size and strength, mammoths with tusks like scythes, bison whose charge can break every rib in your body, wild horses so swift they vanish before you can even draw a breath. To bring one down is to risk everything. The beast does not fall quietly, it tramples, it thrashes, it kills without hesitation. And yet you lunge, because the gnawing inside you will not let you stand still. When the hunt fails, and it often does, you turn to the ground itself. You search for roots, berries, leaves, anything that might silence the pain for one more night. But the earth is a cruel liar. Some fruits fill your belly, others fill your veins with poison. One bite may nourish, the next may leave you writhing in the dirt, eyes glassed over while your tribe watches helplessly. The line between life and death rests on what your hands can pull from the soil. Even when fortune grants you meat, the struggle does not end. Fire pits, blackened and cracked, reveal the story left behind. Charred bones, split open for the marrow within, cut marks that show the violence of survival, archaeological scars etched into the earth itself. Each one is a record of lives clawed out of hunger's grasp for a single day longer. Nothing was wasted, flesh, fat, bone, all stripped to the last fiber because hunger would not forgive even a scrap lost to the dirt. Starvation is not a tragedy of the few, it is the constant shadow of the many. It is the silent force that chose who lived and who did not. And in the brutal mathematics of survival, the world cared nothing for fairness. They starved so you could exist. If you can't starve for 1 second of effort to subscribe, explain your weakness in the comments, because excuses die here. At night, the world changed. The sun, your only shield, sank into the horizon, and with it went the illusion of safety. Darkness crept across the land, swallowing every familiar shape, every path, every landmark. But you are not alone in the dark. You feel it before you see it. The weight of eyes, glinting, unblinking, patient. Eyes that do not belong to your kin. Eyes that belong to killers. Saber-toothed cats, with fangs like daggers jutting from their jaws, stalked the edges of the firelight. Their silence was their weapon, death on padded feet. A single strike from those jaws could crush bone, end breath. And you, with your fragile skin and your crude spear, were little more than a gamble of meat against the hunger of the beast. Cave lions ruled the plains and the shadows of stone shelters alike. They hunted in groups, surrounding, pressing in until there was nowhere left to run. Even the fire, the sacred flame your kind worshipped for warmth and protection, could not always stop them. For fire burns low, and lions know how to wait. Hyenas, with their twisted laughter that echoes in the dark, were not scavengers as you imagine today. They were apex hunters, relentless, cunning, with jaws strong enough to snap bone into powder. Where you fled, they followed. Where you stumbled, they closed in. The ground itself carried their chorus of hunger, mocking, promising the fate you feared most. You were not the hunter in these nights. You were the prey. Fragile. Slow. Naked against a world that was sharper, faster, crueler than you could ever be. Archaeologists uncover the truth in silence. Predator dens littered with human remains. Bones gnawed and shattered, skulls punctured by the teeth of lions, hyenas, saber cats. Proof that long before humans became masters of the world, they were trophies in the lairs of monsters. The dark was never empty. It was alive. It was hostile. And survival meant never truly sleeping, never truly resting, because one mistake in the night was the end. You live now because they endured then. Because your ancestors stared into the glow of hostile eyes and chose to resist, even when everything screamed for surrender. So answer me this, if they could face death every night just to keep the bloodline alive, what excuse keeps you from facing the smallest of challenges? Subscribe now, or admit in the comments that you are softer than the prey that once fed the beasts of the dark. Then came the moment everything shifted, the first spark against stone, the first ember coaxed into flame. Fire. For millions of years, the night had belonged to predators. But suddenly, a fragile line was drawn in the darkness. A circle of light that promised warmth, that held the shadows back. For the first time, humans could stare into the void and not be swallowed by it. Fire was not just heat. It was protection. It was a weapon. And it was a teacher. The flames hardened wood into spears. They softened meat, making it safer, richer, fueling the brain that would one day imagine kingdoms and gods. A roasted meal gave strength that raw flesh could not. With every bite, the mind sharpened, memory stretched, imagination flickered like the sparks that danced into the night sky. And tools, simple stones at first, struck into sharp edges, became extensions of bone and muscle. No longer were humans forced to rely on teeth or nails, pitiful against the claws of lions. A sharpened flint cut deeper, killed cleaner, butchered faster. A group with tools could strip a carcass in minutes, denying scavengers their prize. The weak could now kill the strong. But the greatest breakthrough was not in stone or flame, it was in each other. Alone, you were prey. Together, you were a tribe. Fire was shared. Spears were passed from hand to hand. Watchers guarded while others slept. And in those fragile circles of light, stories began. Lessons of survival whispered across generations. A map of memory carved not in stone, but in the minds of children who would grow to carry the flame further. Without fire, without tools, without the courage to share and to fight as one, humanity would have vanished into the jaws of the night. Instead, they chose to resist. They chose to endure. And you live because of their choice. They fought extinction with fire. And you can't fight your laziness long enough to hit subscribe. Join Tale of History, or admit in the comments why you'd rather sit in the dark. But even with fire in their hands and tools at their side, humanity could not see its most relentless predators. Not beasts with fangs or claws, but enemies too small for the eye, silent, invisible, patient. A cut from a jagged stone, left untreated, could fester until fever burned the body from within. A tooth rotted, and with it came swelling, infection, and death. Parasites lived inside the very meat they ate, writhing through their intestines, draining their strength with every meal. Fleas, ticks, and biting flies carried sickness across tribes like whispers of doom on the wind. Strength meant nothing here. The fastest runner, the strongest hunter, the fiercest warrior, none could outrun disease. Skeletal remains tell the story clearly, twisted spines bent by tuberculosis, bones scarred with leprosy-like lesions, teeth ground down to blackened stumps. These were the marks of enemies that could not be speared, could not be burned, could not be outrun. To survive meant enduring pain without medicine, fever without relief, wounds without healing. Some lived. Many did not. And in the darkness, each cough, each wound, each shiver of fever became a reminder, even in victory against predators, humanity was never safe. The lesson of those bones still echoes, your body is fragile, your life is borrowed. Ancient humans faced it every day. You, too, are not untouchable. They knew death could come from shadows unseen, do you? Or are you too comfortable to even admit it? Don't turn away from this truth. Face it. Join Tale of History, because if you don't, you're no different from those who ignored the fire and perished in the night. And when the beasts were driven back, when the fires pushed away the dark, the greatest threat that remained was not the lion, not the hyena, not the plague that seeped through wounds unseen. It was other humans. Territory meant survival. A cave was shelter, a stream meant water, a valley meant herds to hunt. And where resources overlapped, where one tribe's firelight flickered too close to another's, blood was spilled. Not from predators, but from the same hands that shaped tools, the same mouths that spoke in early tongues. Archaeologists uncover skulls split clean through, the brutal mark of stone axes. Arrowheads embedded in ribs that never healed. Mass graves where men, women, and children were thrown together, not by natural disaster, but by human hands that slaughtered them. This was not senseless rage. It was strategy. Kill, and you own the ground. Kill, and you secure the water. Kill, and your tribe eats while theirs is erased. Prehistoric violence was not rare, it was expected. The same fire that gave warmth also gave the courage to burn rivals out of existence. And here lies the darkness of our nature. The predator outside could be fought, but the predator within, greed, fear, envy, turned humans into executioners of their own kind. Do not imagine yourself above them. Your comforts are the only barrier. Strip them away, no food, no safety, no order, and you too would fight, bleed, betray. The bones remind us, humanity's first wars were fought long before swords and empires. And those wars never ended. They killed their own kind just to survive. And you can't even support your kind by subscribing to Tale of History. If you refuse, at least confess in the comments why you betray your own tribe. Every breath you take today, every beat of your heart, is bought by a past carved in agony. The faces you never saw, scarred, broken, forgotten, are the reason you exist. They starved so that their children might eat. They bled so that their tribe might live. They fought beasts, endured storms, and slaughtered rivals, not because they were cruel, but because there was no other way. Survival was not noble. It was not heroic. It was brutal. And yet, because they endured it, you can sit in the comfort of light, air, and safety, blind to the firelight that once flickered against cave walls. The chair beneath you exists only because someone long ago refused to die in the mud. The world you call normal was built on a foundation of terror, sacrifice, and unrelenting struggle. Do not mistake your survival as your own achievement. It is borrowed, an inheritance paid for by lives crushed under weight you could not carry. Every bone unearthed in the soil whispers the same message: you are here because we suffered. So look around you. The walls, the glass, the screens, they shield you from the nightmare that once ruled every waking hour. But the truth lingers: survival was never gentle. It was never fair. It was carved out of pain and bought with blood. And it is the only reason you are here to hear these words. If you have watched this far without subscribing to Tale of History, you have taken their story for granted. Subscribe now, or explain in the comments why you dishonor the very struggle that gave you life.